Hi everybody, this is Kristen from A Voice and a View. Hope you're all doing well out there. And I'm pretty tired today, but I know it's been a few days since I've done a video. So I'm going to do story time today. And this video, this story takes me back so many years. I'm trying to think of the time frame. It was probably mid-90s, like 95, something like that. But this story was way before my transformation, guys, before my awakening. So bear with me. And, we've all had our interesting situations that we get ourselves into. This one was pretty extreme, but it was way before who I am now. Before what they call the rebirth, okay? Before you transform into basically a totally different person. So, like I said, this was probably back in the mid-90s. And I used to work for a company in the surrounding area of Flint, Michigan. I grew up in Lower Michigan, but around the Flint area. And I used to work with a group of mainly girls, but I used to work, I think it was second shift. Yeah. Get out around 11 o'clock at night. And one of the girls had asked me to go out after shift. And which I was like, okay, And a big part of this story revolves around who I worked with. The people in the area and the people that I worked with. But a lot of the girls that I worked with were African American. Okay, and normally this wouldn't be any big situation, okay? But it's relevant in this story. But I mean, I've grown up around so many different cultures, so many different nationalities. Gosh, I've been around Jewish people, Hawaiian, Samoan, Asian, Korean, but so many, especially because I lived near a military base at one time. But a bunch of the girls that I worked with were African American, and we used to have a really good time at work, a lot of laughs, and felt very comfortable with them. So one of the girls asked me to go out to a bar in downtown Flint. Hold on a second. Somebody was outside. I had my window down. So, anyways. But we used to have a good time laughing at work and have a good time. So one of the girls asked me to go to a bar in downtown Flint. And it didn't really faze me at all because, I grew up around the area and I worked with a lot of different, like I said, different nationalities, different cultures. I've been friends with many different people in my life. And So after we got out at 11 o'clock, we ended up going to this bar, and I had never been to this bar. I had heard of it, but never been in. And so it didn't really faze me much. I was like, yeah, let's go. So I get to the bar and I walk in, and I'm the only white person in the bar besides the bartender. There was one bartender, a woman, that was Caucasian. And it kind of took me back a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't have a problem with it. But I know when I walked in, I got some looks. So I was kind of like, okay, well, proceed with caution. So we walk in and we go sit down at a booth. And immediately, well, before this, there was a band. And there was a bunch of people dancing on stage. So as soon as we sat down, one of my friends ended up getting asked to dance. So I was okay, I sat in the booth, and she asked me to hold her change purse for her. So I was like, yeah, no problem. So I was sitting there by myself, but I had to go to the bathroom. So I took her change purse with me. And when I was in the bathroom, I was in the stall, and I heard a bunch of women walk in. And they were pretty loud. I was like, okay, there's probably 5 or 6 women that walked in all together. They were all friends. So I came out of the stall, walking out fine, normal. And I wanted to look in the long mirror that was to the right of me as I walked out of the stall. And there was one of the women that came in. She was, I don't know, she wasn't like super short, but she was shorter than I was. And she was in front of the mirror. And she knew I was right there, wanting to look in the mirror. And she wasn't like directly in front of the mirror, but she was kind of like standing, a little bit back. So I said, excuse me, because I wanted to look in the mirror. And she heard me, but she wouldn't move. So I asked her again, and she wouldn't move. Third time I asked her, still wouldn't move, still wouldn't answer me. So, being bold like I used to be, I got mad. And I kind of slipped in front of her. I kind of scooted in front of her quickly. And immediately, she called me a bitch and pushed me from behind. And I didn't take well at the time to that. I could definitely hold my own. But that really ticked me off. I was being very polite, very courteous. She was not standing directly in front of the mirror. She was kind of, a little further away from it, but I needed to kind of, be in front of her to look in the mirror. But I could tell it was being done on purpose. She was trying to irritate me. And it worked. So anyway, she pushed me from behind. And I got really mad. I don't like being touched. But anyways, so I got mad and I turned around and I pushed her sideways. And she ended up flying into the stall, right? Not a good decision. Don't ever do it. So the whole time I'm holding on to my friend's change purse, right? And the next thing I know, all of the women in the bathroom pounced on top of me and started beating me up. They were punching me. I don't know how many women on my back trying to lay on top of me. They were pulling my hair. I remember getting punched sideways in the face. My nose was bleeding. I had bruises on my face and but anyways, that fight or flight mode kicked in. And somehow I pulled myself up and I dragged myself out of that bathroom with all of them on top of me. I don't know how I did it. Somehow my strength just went in overdrive and I pulled myself out of there with all of them. Pulling at me, hitting me, laying on top of me, whatever. But somehow I got myself up and out of there. Pushed myself through the door. And there was a bouncer on the other side of the bathroom door. So as soon as I was pulling myself out, he saw what was going on. And another bouncer came flying over, and they were getting all of them off of me, as I'm bleeding all over the place. And one bouncer took me over to the bar. And gave me a towel, and I was trying to wipe myself up. Next thing you know, the other women got away from the other bouncer, and they all came at me again. Started swinging on me. So they finally separated me, got me into the back room behind the bar, in a closed room with a door. And he said, I'm going to go find your friend. So I'm waiting in there, waiting for them to go get her to bring her back into the room. So the next thing you know, this humongous bouncer came into the back room where I was, told me that they went and got my friend and she was waiting out front in her car for me. And I was like, I want the cops here. And they're like, no, you're leaving. So, well, at this point I got really mad because I wanted the cops there. And the bouncer was like, nope. Picked me right up, brought me to the front of outside the front of the bar, brought me outside, and my friend was outside in her car right in front waiting for me. And the bouncer put me into the car, and of course I'm mad at this point. I'm really mad at this point. Put me into the car, and my friend drove us away. So as we are leaving, these women were throwing rocks at my friend's car. Now, I guess you could look at it as it being my fault, but I was trying to be polite. Wasn't trying to start anything. But when somebody puts their hands on me, I didn't take it lightly. And I don't know what I was thinking at the time, guys. Because it could have gotten really ugly, being in the area that I was. But, so anyways, my friend drove away and I called the cops. We parked, had the cops show up to meet us. And the first thing the cops said was, "What the hell were you doing in a bar in downtown Flint?" And I'm thinking, I was just sitting in the booth, minding my own. Go to the bathroom, minding my own. Wanted to look in the mirror, minding my own. And, it didn't have to happen that way. But I look back at that time in that situation and, I don't know. I don't even know how to. When you are in a different place, mentally, where you look at everybody as the same. You look at everyone like they have the same heart as you. Where you trust everybody and your outlook is in a good place. Where you're not trying to cause harm to others. You're just trying to fit in. But when you're that naive, like I was, I didn't realize other people's perspective of how they would have looked at me when there's a lot of interracial tension. In the area that I was. I wasn't trying to make anyone uncomfortable. I was just trying to go in and have a good time. And, yeah. Wasn't trying to step on toes. Wasn't trying to cause a fight. But yeah, I look back on that event and I should have never put myself in that situation. But when someone puts their hands on you, not a good thing. I automatically went into defense mode and I didn't like it. And I don't like it now. But yeah, I should have never put myself in that situation because it could have gotten really, really, really bad. But yeah, I look at myself then compared to now, and it's like night and day. But I really don't know how I came up with the strength that I did to pull myself out of that bathroom. I really don't know. Because there was at least 5, if not 6, women in there hitting on me. And taking swings and pulling my hair and jumping on me, and I have no idea. Spirit saved me again. My angels got me out of a mess that I didn't realize that I was going to be involved with. But yeah, I ended up going to the ER. I ended up going to the emergency room. And yeah, I was pretty bruised up. Lost a lot of hair in the shower. I had a really hard time getting up the next day. I was, really, really sore. Could barely get my head off the pillow. But sometimes, sometimes you go through hard lessons. And I wasn't welcome there. I felt it when I walked in. And I tried to brush it off like it's all right, I'm good, But yeah, didn't end up good. But I look back on my old self, how naive I was, how trusting I was, how my heart was so big. But when your heart is big, you think everybody else's heart is as well. And it's not always the case. You try to be respectful. You try to treat everyone the same. But it was definitely not the right, or I should have never been there. Should have never put myself in that situation. So anyways, I will never do that again. So anyways, there's another crazy moment of mine. Another story from my past so many years ago. And not to say that this would always happen, guys, but things can get pretty aggressive, and yeah, it can happen so quick. And when you're not thinking straight, when somebody provokes you, sometimes your emotions and your feelings just gets out of control to where you can't control yourself. You can't control your behaviors. And yeah, I definitely didn't like people putting their hands on me. And I still wouldn't, but I got really angry. Really angry because I don't like people intimidating me at all. And I don't deal with it anymore. I ignore. I just walk away, and because no answer is my answer. Or I'll smile and wave. So anyways, that's the end of story time today, guys. And sorry I look so serious in my storytelling. Takes me back on a lot of my past and my old self. And I wonder, how would I have handled that? How would I have handled that differently if it happened today compared to so many years ago? But I know how I would have handled it because I wouldn't have been there. Because I'm not going to put myself into sketchy situations. I don't even go to bars anymore for the most part. And if I do, it's mainly just to listen to a band or something. But I know not to put myself into a difficult situation anymore. You just got to be careful nowadays. And just look at every situation that you experience and not put yourself in a bad one to where things can happen that can hurt you or that can go really wrong. And who knows what can happen. I mean, that could have gone very badly for me. Very badly. If they would have had some kind of a KNIFE or something, very easily could have gone a lot differently. But anyways, that's it, guys. That's my story for today. So this is Kristen from A Voice and a View. I will, on my next video, I'll try to be more upbeat. I'm a little worn out today. It's been busy. And but until next time, this is Kristen from A Voice and a View. Peace, love, and light, guys. Until next time. Bye. Love you all.